Trauma impacts our DNA. Research shows that women with parents or grandparents who struggle with drug or alcohol misuse are 30% more likely to misuse substances. These women also have a 40% higher chance of having an open Child Protective Services case involving their children. This is Vanessa's story of recovery and the journey of motherhood with 5 children.
I know 6th grade was the year in the summer, that I smoked cigarettes for the first time. And I had a best friend, and we started drinking pure alcohol out of her parents' cabinets. Her parents drank a lot, and so it made it easy access for us. You know, I sit here and I think about that over and over, how nobody said anything to us and how we kept getting away with it. I think we were trying things in the very beginning, but I feel like something changed. I felt like, like nothing or no one could hurt me.
From ages 3 to 7, Vanessa was physically and sexually abused by her father, who had a substance use disorder. At the age of 7, Vanessa's mother made the discovery that she was being abused and left her father. Vanessa's son Kobe was 7 years old when he first witnessed Vanessa's substance use.
It affected my family in every way possible. Having a broken family and not having any idea how a healthy family functioned left me always wondering if this is how things were supposed to be.
Vanessa's mother remarried. Her stepfather was also an alcoholic and sexually inappropriate with her. To protect her mother and younger brother, she left home because she didn't want to be the piece that split the family up. She was 17.
I am 71 years old, and I think back to the domestic trauma that I endured as a child with my mother, who had untreated mental health, and then the domestic trauma that I endured with my first husband, Vanessa's father, who struggled with substance use and mental health issues, and then with my second husband, who also struggled with alcohol. I feel like none of it was being addressed, and it destroyed our families and took innocence away from children.
I left home at 17, really struggling with this depression. I didn't really know, though, what it was. I was really sad all the time. I didn't even know what trauma was.
At 18, she met her first husband and became pregnant with her first child. 2 days before giving birth to her son Anthony, she learned that her father had died by suicide.
It really was a hard time for me because none of my family was able to celebrate or be at the hospital with me because everybody was trying to take care of his funeral arrangements and all of that. And so I was alone. And I was looking forward to having, a child. And I know I was scared. And nobody knew how to talk to me. Nobody. They avoided it. Everybody avoided it. And nobody talked to me in the hospital about it. Yeah, it was rough. I didn't get to bond with my son. It was huge for me. The next year was probably the hardest. I had multiple depression, like really, really deep depression, multiple times that I thought about suicide. Didn't really have anybody to really talk to.
Due to relationship violence, Vanessa eventually left her first marriage. She entered into a new romantic partnership and saw less and less of Anthony, who was living with his father. Pregnant again, Vanessa gave birth to her second son, Kobe.
I got involved with this gentleman, and I say relationship because we did move in together. He winded up being a spitting image of my father, except for, he didn't put hands on children. But everything else, he was exactly like my dad. He looked like my dad. He got involved with methamphetamines, and I followed. We began dealing weed and a lot of meth, and was using every single day.
Vanessa attempted to leave Kobe's father and was in and out of 3 women's shelters. During that time, she gave birth to her third son.
His name was Christopher, and I was using while I was pregnant, and with everything that I was walking through mentally and physically with his dad. He He was born early. His heart wasn't fully developed. And he did have methamphetamines in his system, and so did I. I had to show that I was sober in order for them to let me take Christopher home, which I did. They had a nurse that came for a tiny little bit, and DHS came into my home a tiny little bit, but it wasn't like full-on open report or anything. I felt like a piece of crap. How could I have let this happen? And I was giving it one hell of a college try. He had to have a heart monitor, and needless to say, it was too much. He needed too much, and we winded up giving Christopher up for adoption. Have not spoken to him. And I know that was like one more chip on my heart, one more devastation on my heart. But at this point, it was like I really had no, I don't know. I think somewhere in there, I just kind of given up.
Vanessa made a plan. She stayed sober. She got her GED. When she became pregnant with another child, she was living in a shelter. It was heartbreaking, but she gave her up for adoption to ensure her safety. 2 days after the birth, Vanessa fled to safety to live with her mother in Colorado.
Her name is Casey. When I went into labor with her, I was sober. Everything was good, but the family couldn't get there for 3 days. I sat in the hospital with her, held her, bonded with her, fed her, prayed over her. I didn't even have a faith. I sang to her in this hospital room, promising her she would be safe.
In Colorado, Colby's dad and Vanessa tried to mend their relationship, but the abuse continued. She was finally able to get a restraining order on Colby's dad, and they divorced.
I go to Meeker, raising my sons, and after a while, just gonna put this out there, after a while, I winded up going back to the same life. I tried, but I had no guidance. I had nobody in my life to tell me that, you can do this. I had nobody. I was just trying to live my life as a single mother, had no idea how to do it.
Vanessa married again to a man who was on parole and returned to the same life. She had another son, Daniel. When she again started using methamphetamines, a welfare check resulted in Vanessa's mother taking custody of her sons.
The only thing that was good in my life were my children, and the only thing that gave me true love was my children, and I lost that.
Faced with losing permanent custody of her children, Vanessa tried a 30-day treatment facility. It was unsuccessful, but she didn't give up. She tried once more at a 90-day facility. She finally received medication to support her mental health. 13 months later, Vanessa regained custody of her children. She found a mentor to help her and became a certified addiction counselor for the next 10 years. She started a nonprofit dedicated to recovery. What would you share with providers?
Most of these people, the family that they came from, they didn't have any choice as kids, as youth. So I think a huge part about this is that everybody experiences fear. I promise you she was afraid when she walked into that hospital room in the middle of labor. I promise you that she was afraid to finally go into the clinic, and guarantee you there was something that she was experiencing that wasn't good in her body. But it took all the courage that she had, palms sweating and literally shaking to her core, afraid to talk to anybody about what she was experiencing. But she did it anyway. We have to ask questions. We gotta connect. We have to walk through the fear of providers afraid that we're going to ask the wrong thing. Because if we don't ask any questions at all, how is she ever going to get well? I'm Vanessa, and I'm tough as a mother. I'm one tough mother.